It's spooky season, and at the Southern Festival of Books last weekend, someone asked horror writer Desiree S, one of the editors of The Black Girl Survives This One anthology, about ghosts. This person noticed that white people's ghosts are different from black people's ghosts. What I mean is that historically, white European and white American ghost stories have a very different and distinct flavor from the ghost stories that Black Africans and Black Americans have, right? And there is a whole host of historical reasons why this is the case. Halfway through her answer, I whipped out my phone because she was giving some gold, right? So I'm going to show you part of her brilliant answer, and then I'm going to think out loud a little bit with you about what this has to do with racism and history.
European ghosts look very different from maybe other sort of countercultural ghost stories. Particularly Black culture, we have to make a limit do this is the same from a lot of African diaspora cultures. We talk to the dead. Our idea of ghosts are very different. We have ancestral traditions, and then a lot that was carried on when we came to, kind of Christianized and came to the Americas. Our dead is very close to us. We're very much closer. So we're not necessarily scared of our dead. So that's why we invite them to the room with us. We honor, we alter to, a lot of traditions, especially coming out of our community system, Black kind of folkloric histories that are really about having conversations with the dead. And I think when we think about ghosts, it looks scary, it feels very different. In a lot of ways, one of my writers, antholog, has talked about this before. A lot of times, there's this idea of ghosts coming from guilt, as opposed to ghosts coming in terms of kind of a helpful or a hand of kind of remembrance, And I think that's kind of how I see stuff. Oftentimes some of our ghost stories kind of differentiate, what do ghosts mean for us?
I know the audio on that wasn't the best because I was in a bigger room, but basically she said that European ghosts and white ghosts in general look different from other cultural ghost stories, right? Black people's ghosts tend to be ancestors and are often portrayed as looking out for descendants in some way, right? Guiding, protecting, bringing them back to a sense of heritage and self. Meanwhile, white European ghosts are most often portrayed as antagonistic, right? So there's this, the haunted house, right? You think about that and it's somewhere you don't want to be, right? And when we white folks conjure up ghosts of other races, they also scare us, right? Think about all of those Indian burial ground stories where we perceive of native ghosts as vengeful. Wonder what they have to be vengeful about. Anyway, it makes me wonder if everyone else has it right. Are we scared of our collective white ancestors because we know what they've done? And when I say they, I mean the collective they, right, as a whole. Because there were always good white individuals at every time period trying to stem the tide of colonialism, ethnocide, genocide, holy war, slavery, segregation, etc., right? And so, of course, you do get a smaller subsection of stories of kindly white ancestors helping their descendants. But you know what you almost never hear about? Black ghosts haunting and harming Black people. And I'm a horror fan, and I'm really struggling to think of any. Meanwhile, white ghosts are always harming people of all races in horror. And you really can't blame POC for that because white authors are still writing the vast majority of horror, right? Jordan Peele and these two are very much the exception and not the rule. This also kind of makes me think of a side note, which is the complication of the white evangelical religion, right? Which tends to label anything that can't be explained as a demon or as belonging to their devil, right? I never really thought about it before, but I think historically it must have been a way for the church to interfere with white people's connection to our ancestors, right? If we're scared of any potential voice we might hear or any mystical experience we might have, then we close our ears to the kindly ancestor that we might have who may want to help guide us, protect us, or bring us back to a sense of non-harmful, healthy heritage and self, right? After all, people who don't have a solid sense of self are very easily led. Anyway, I just said a mouthful there. What do you think? Feel free to share your personal ghost stories in the comments. I'm always excited to hear.